Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Lone Ranger, Othello, Ghost in the Shell, every movie I've listed, and a ton of others that I haven't, all have something in common, and it's not just familiar cast lists. Every movie has had a white actor portraying a minority role. So, to sum it up in one term, it's called whitewashing. Whitewashing is recurring in Hollywood for years, and my policy claim is that I don't think white actors should be cast in minority roles. So I'm going to be talking about why. So just to give a little background, like I said, it's been happening for years. I've done research on this before. I think it's a really important topic to talk about. I think it opens up a dialogue for media representation, which is really important. And when researching it, I was really surprised to read some of the names of actors that have portrayed characters that are minority when they're white. It's really shocking. It's probably happened in a lot of your favorite movies. It's more common than we think. In earlier media, people used like makeup techniques and prosthetics, literally painting their skin to appear as a different race, whereas now it's more about changing a character's name or changing the script around to curate the role so it makes sense more for a white actor, even though it is supposed to be a minority role. So whether that's switching up characterization or throwing a wig on a white actor and calling them biracial, the methods of this have definitely changed, although it is still present. So I do have a couple main points I want to touch on why I think that this should not be happening. My first one deals with misrepresentation and inaccuracies. So when you have a white actor portraying a minority role, it's doomed to be inaccurate from the start. A white person can only think how they think. They don't know how a black person thinks, or a Hispanic person, or an Asian person. They can only speak for themselves. So when you put a white actor and you try to make them think like another race, it's impossible. It's just not something that can be done, and when you force it, it's going to be tainted from the start. The thoughts are filtered, the perspective is off, it's just not accurate. In Hollywood, a lot of white men run the show, so they really have no experience when it comes to telling stories from a perspective other than their own. So when they create these characters, a lot of the times it's stereotypical, and behavior that we see is kind of predictable and almost archaic in a way, super old-fashioned. One of the phrases I really liked in an article I found was that the perspective is Western imagination. So it's not truly representative of minorities because it's told from a white person's perspective. My next argument is that when you cast a white actor in these roles, you're taking away an opportunity for minorities. So minority roles, although they have become more mainstream, they're compared to white actors' roles, it's incomparable. White actors have always gotten top tier opportunities. They can play the hero, they can play the love interest, they can be smart and be cunning, but minorities have always had to settle for more typecasted roles, which is really unfortunate. So when a white actor is cast in a role that's meant for a minority, they're stealing away an opportunity for a true story to be told, an accurate story to be told, which is really unfair. There's definitely been a lot more vocal backlash against this. Audiences really want to see minorities get the chance to tell their stories. So when Scarlett Johansson was cast in Ghost in the Shell as an Asian woman, obviously she's not Asian, there was a huge pushback from the public. The internet was in an uproar because of it. And when they announced the Hellboy reboot and they announced a white actor was playing a minority role, he got so much backlash about it that he eventually stepped down. So while audiences and minorities are pushing more for minorities to be playing minority roles, it's still, Hollywood's still calling the shots in the grand scheme of things, which speaking of audiences, that brings me to my last argument, which is that audiences learn from the media, and when you put a white actor in a role that's not really meant for them, it's not really designed for them, it kind of skews the whole learning experiences. Media teaches culture in a way, so it teaches audiences how minorities think and act and believe, and it also teaches minorities how to think about themselves, but no one's getting a true lesson, if you want to call it that, because it's not being, these stories aren't being told by the right people. So it's just the gratification that people are receiving is off because the stories that are being told aren't being told by the right people. When you break it down, white people aren't qualified for a role that's a minority. It doesn't make any sense that they've been able to, not pull it off, but been able to do it for so long, because they don't even fit the requirements. I don't think a white actor should be able to have the opportunity to have a minority role at all. But going back to my argument, audiences learn from media, media influence us, whether we realize it or not, so we might as well have the best representation we can have because the resources are available. So with every policy, there's obviously going to be a counter position, so I'm just going to address a few of those rebuttals that would potentially come up. So the first one would be this actor was chosen for a reason, they were the best person for the part, they just happened to be white. I think this is really flawed. I think studios pick these white actors because a lot of them are household names, A-list actors, and they think that they're marketable and profitable, which, you know, is understandable. They want to bring in revenue for something they worked hard on, but I think that, you know, the talent pool is, you know, accessible and amazing, that studios are taking more and more advantage of minority actors and minority roles, which brings me to my next point, counter argument, which is that, you know, if this is so bad, if white actors and minority roles is so bad, why has nobody done anything before? Like I said before, I think that studios and production companies have done what has worked for them in the past. I think they have the mentality that if it's not broke, don't fix it, but I think it is broken and it should be fixed. And when you look at it, when you put diverse casts out there, they really work. So one article that I read specifically mentioned Black Panther and how audiences love seeing a diverse cast and people could connect with these characters like they hadn't before. And movies like Crazy Rich Asians, or even like Ocean's 11 and The Big Sick, where minority characters are being accurately represented. They do really well, entertainment-wise and box office-wise. People enjoy seeing something different. They're craving diversity. I know I said a lot, so just to restate my claim, white actors should not be cast in minority roles. I think it opens up for inaccuracies in race representation. I think it takes away opportunities from minorities to tell their story correctly, and I think that the audience is taking away a learning experience that isn't really true or helpful in life, honestly. I think if a role calls for an Asian woman hero, cast an Asian woman for the part. If a role calls for an African American man love interest, cast an African American man for the part. I think Hollywood and the entertainment industry is the land of opportunity, and possibilities are endless, and I think they should really start living up to that name. Thank you.